Quran reading, distinct from Sunnah, which is the recorded deeds and sayings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was preserved as a hadith, which is the news, report, or narration. At the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're told that 17 people could read in Mecca, 12 people could read and write in Medina. Learning in general was oral. It was not by reading, not by writing. And it's worth bearing that in mind. And the sagas in history were, in actual fact, committed to memory and used in forms of poetry, and there were, of course, poetry recitations, and the length and the beauty of the Arabic language was in those poetry competitions. And all this was going on at the time that the revelation came to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. It was revealed in Arabic, the Quran, over 23 years. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, conveyed the message received by reciting the exact words he received in their exact order. The Quran's rhythmic style makes it easy to memorize. Martin Sweeter notes, in ancient times when writing was scarcely used, memory and oral transmission was exercised and strengthened to a degree now almost unknown. Now, what I'm quoting here, I have all the references for. There's about 45 of them at the end of the paper. I'm not going to read them out as I go through. If anyone wants to check a reference, come and see me afterwards. And in the Jewish tradition, if any of you saw Fiddler on the Roof, you remember there was a person called the Memory Man. And that man knew the history for that group for 300 years. That was as much as their memory could take. Whenever the revelation came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or peace and blessing be upon him, he would recite it to his scribes, who would write it down, read it back to him, what they had written. He would check it, and a copy would be made for him as well. It was recorded on shoulder bones, leather, etc., and the trunks of palm trees. Large or all portions of the revelation was memorized by many of the companions. It was coming piecemeal over a period of 23 years, and so there was a little time to think about it and act on it. And of course they were persuaded or told that they should learn each verse and transmit it to others. Also, it was to be recited regularly in worship. The sequence was arranged by Gabriel, on whom be peace. When the revelation came to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, Gabriel, on whom be peace, would actually tell him where it would go in what had been revealed. So the position was known. Each Ramadan, he would repeat after Jibreel, on whom be peace, the entire Quran in its exact order as far as it had been revealed. And in the last year of his life, he repeated it twice. So not only were the words known, not only was the sequence known, but also the order. Now, gradually the companions spread out from Medina, as you know, after the farewell Hajj. Something like 140,000 were present, and over 110,000 actually moved out of Medina and died outside of Medina. So they moved into different populations, different languages, different dialects. And centers and schools for memorization were established. Now, what happened was that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, actually appointed people to read or recite or teach the Quran in particular dialects in certain areas. Now, as it spread farther and farther after the demise of the Prophet ﷺ, so there became problems. Which dialect should they learn? And in some cases there was confusion. In other cases there was a mixture. People might learn two. But let's just look a little at what some of the other people say who aren't Muslims. Kenneth Gragg, as you probably know, was actually the Bishop of Jerusalem at one time. He reflects, this phenomenon of Quranic recital means that the text has traversed the centuries in an unbroken living sequence of devotion. It cannot therefore be handled as an antiquarian thing, nor as a historical document from the past. Quranic memorization has made the Quran a present possession through all the lapse of Muslim time, giving it a human currency in every generation, never relegating it to a bare authority for reference alone. In other words, it's something that's living. After the Battle of Yamama, these were known as the Qurra Wars, wars of apostasy, where a false prophet came up, the same there. And this was after the demise of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or peace and blessings be upon him, during the caliphate of Abu Bakr Siddiq. May Allah be pleased with him. There were many martyrs at that battle. Just in one battle at Yamama, 400 Muslims died. It was feared that parts of the Quran might be lost unless a written copy of the entire revelation was produced. It was suggested by Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, to collect the Quran in one written form. There was initially opposition to this because the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, had not done it and had not authorized it. So what was the need for it? But gradually, Abu Bakr Siddiq came round to the thinking that it was a good idea. And he requested Zayd bin Thabit to head a committee to collect scattered recordings and prepare one collection of loose sheets, known as suhuf. If you're not sure about the number of martyrs at the battles, you can read Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. You can read Suyuti, or a translation of Suyuti on the four caliphs, and that will tell you that there was over 1,100, over 1,200 all told. But some of those were from the plains, some were from the city, and some were from Mecca. In other words, some were from Medina and some were from Mecca. Only accepted material which had been written down in the presence of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was to be used. It was to be verified by two reliable witnesses who had actually heard the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, recite the passage in question. Once completed and accepted, these sheets were kept with the Caliph Abu Bakr, and that's the year that he died, then passed on to Caliph Umar, and you can see what his reign was, and then to Umar's daughter and the Prophet's widow, Hafsa. Okay? So here we have Zayd bin Thabit announced that they were going to collect the Quran from anyone who knew it. He gave them the criteria. Has to be two reliable witnesses, that the Prophet ﷺ was heard to have recited it by them. They had to have it write it down. And he sat in the mosque with the gateway to the mosque, and as people came in, they told him or discussed with him, and so the writing started until it was completed. Okay? The Quran was actually revealed in 7 different Arabian dialects. Okay? And this is where the problems came, as I was trying to explain earlier. As the Muslims spread out, so the dialects spread out. And more than that, they began to merge, or to diverge, if you like, but actually to merge. And one day, Hudayfa observed people from the present-day Syria and Iraq disputing various pronunciations of words. And when he inquired where they learnt it from, he was given the names of the companions which the Prophet ﷺ had sent to that area. Okay? But other people were unsure which dialect should be used. Now there's danger of distortions, divisions, disunity and corruption. And now we have Caliph Uthman, 15 years later. He asked Zayd bin Thabit and others to make a copy of the manuscript with Hafsa. Actually, there's two lines along this, but I'm only going to give you this one. Okay. He asked Zayd bin Thabit and others to make a copy of the manuscript with Hafsa. This is the same person who led the committee for the original collection.